Thank you very much. Just a reminder to all audience members, you can tweet in your questions, hashtag BathQ2C, or you can pass your questions forward on a piece of paper if you have not got access to Twitter. We're now going to start off with some pre-prepared questions, and we'll start with William. William, in your manifesto, the majority of your campaign points are all covered by the presidential remit. Why have you chosen to run for activities officer?
Well, firstly, it's the area that I have the most experience with. I'm currently chair of People and Planet. I've been involved in societies in pretty much every category other than faith and cultural. But I also feel that to think that the activities role is purely about societies is a little narrow-minded. We've seen Freddie this year has really expanded the way that the activities officer deals with things like the green issue, setting up the green assemblies, Go Green Week, things like that. So I think, again, to think that it's just about societies is a little narrow-minded.
I don't think my question was focused purely at societies, but I think, okay, that's fair enough. Is anyone else would like to take the opportunity to explain why they're running for activities officer in any more detail, or comment on that?
Can I have that one back, please?
Will? Tom, can you turn on the end one?
There we go. Well, for a start, I'm running for the office of activities officer rather than trying to run for a platform on which to try and make a change. Obviously, I want to make a change, but primarily I want to be an activities officer and I want to fulfill that role. I'm running for activities officer because in my time at university, activities and societies built me into who I am. They developed my character, and I've always wanted to give something back to societies and help build them up to be better than they are now, just as they have done that for me.
Would anyone else like to make a comment on that?
I'd just like to say, with the activities officer role, there are a large number of areas. It is societies, enterprise, job link, skills training. No one candidate, unless they are superwoman or superman, can hit all those areas. So as long as you've got strengths in certain places, you should be able to go from there and build up, as long as you've asked the questions and got the awareness of what people need and what people want.
Marcy?
I've actually been asked a similar question. Someone came up to me and said I focus too much on diversity and equality. For me personally, I'm an international black woman. For me to ignore that aspect of the activities role would be wrong. There's a lot more to the role than people realize, and it's not just about societies, and I know that's not what you asked, but there's a lot to the role that needs to be taken into account before actually putting your ideas forward.
Yeah, Laz, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
The reason why I'm going for activities is because a degree is so much more than just sitting in a lecture room. I want to improve the students' entire experience. So activities includes job link, it includes skills training, it includes societies. I'm not sporty enough to include the sport, so I haven't gone for that. But I have done a lot with the other development of the area, and I want to improve the students' lives in that respect.
Thank you. While you've got the mic, Laz, in your campaign, one of your key points has been on restructuring the societies area and how this will lead to more available funding. Could you explain how a restructure would lead to more funding?
Okay, so at the moment, Backstage currently dwarf all of the societies' funding. This kind of gives the wrong sway in what societies actually have at the end of the year. So a lot of people end on positive, a few people end on negative. I want more training with regards to that, so people know what they need to spend.
Do you not think that by moving any one student group around, their funding allocation would move with them for any society?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm not like removing Backstage society.
So it wouldn't lead to an increase in funding?
It wouldn't, not immediately. That's what I'm saying. So it would give the opportunity for more room to develop the funding. I'm not removing Backstage funding at all.
Thank you. Wadsey, you'd also mentioned some more funding for the activities area. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
My main aim was to form relationships with sponsoring companies to increase the tailored opportunities that are available to societies. I can only use my own society as an example. I'm the chair of the African and Caribbean Society. We didn't receive much funding. We received 150, which we shared with Race Equality for Black History Month, and it does play an incredible role in affecting the events that you want to plan and getting people involved. So my main aim is just to create those links with the companies that are tailored to individual needs.
So a question to... as a question to anyone who would like it.
May I?
Yeah, of course.
I think trying to increase funding is obviously it's what everyone wants, but as it stands, that isn't entirely feasible. What I would like to do is try and make what we already do more efficient. There are currently plans in action to move a lot of stuff online. I want to push that harder, because if we free up people like Carmela to do more work, then we can do more for societies. It's not about more money, it's about doing more with it.
I'm sure Kamala would love some more work. Just an open question to the floor. Do any of you not feel that the best way for societies to create more funding for themselves is to run sustainable events within the community that can generate income?
I definitely think that's really important. Societies that put on events, they're amazing. I've been to so many, there have been some great ones this week. They're all the time. But if they don't plan a way to break even and make money to make their, be able to produce more stuff for their society that year, we can't help them. There are events that people put on with no budget, no money. They just make it happen from the ticket income and the way they put the event on, what they sell, what they do. And there are ways and there are people in the SU that can help you do that for your society. If you don't know how, contact the SOX exec, contact the activities office. Everyone there has ideas and has ways to help you and want the societies and events to improve.
Thank you. I can see lads is clamouring to get at the mic.
Okay, I think that the way to actually make them more sustainable is better education. So I've known a lot of societies, they're going negative, and the way that no one wants to end on a negative, so a lot of committee members are putting their own money in, which is just, it's not helpful to the society, it's not helpful to the whole societies. Our funding gets cut every year because we're ending on a positive. This is because people don't want to end on a negative. We'd rather you ended on negative £20 than positive £50. This is what I want to get across. I want people to have more education and then reorganise what we already have to make it more sustainable.
Yep, Will.
Obviously, I think the idea of sustainable, making sure that they make their money back through events and stuff is a good idea. And I understand that People on Planet doesn't get a budget because we're free, because we believe that people should be able to join something like that. So I'm not overly acquainted with the way that the funding of the SU works. But I just find it perhaps a little bit weird that we're sitting here discussing how we can find more money for the SU when the university made a £16.9 million surplus.
I don't think we're here to discuss the university's finances. We're here to discuss the activities officer's remit.
No, I get that, but there's clearly money around, so I don't understand why anyone should be underfunded.
I think that is perhaps a discussion for another day, and this is more about what students can get out of the union. Wadsey.
I think that's a great idea, and a great way to do it is through collaborative events. That's something that I'm aiming to push for, is collaborating with different societies and different universities as well to get that pushed forward.
We're starting to do that this year, actually, with the Societies Extravaganza. The Ethical and Political Societies are building an amazing conference, Bath and Beyond. The Art Societies are getting together some workshops. Freddie's taken the lead on this, and we have about 20 societies coming together at the end of March. Plans for that are in progress, and with work, I agree with Wadsey, they will get to the point that we can all start to share resources and start to share these big events with each other, and that means we don't pay for all the funds ourselves. I think it's a great system.
So the sustainable aspect of that is that you share the resources and everything is done that way.
Nick?
Obviously, society should be trying to be as sustainable as possible, but they still need financial support from the university. Societies like Bust, every time they run a show, they are taking a risk. And those risks often pay off into producing fantastic shows. But unless we can also offer them the support if they take that risk and it doesn't fall through, then we are missing out on a huge part of what the SU should be offering.
Thank you. We'll move on from there with a question from the floor. With student engagement with politics at a very low level, what are the candidates' views on the establishment of a political party societies on campus? It's not my question. With student engagement with politics at a very low level, what are the candidates' views on the establishment of a political party society or societies on campus? We'll start with Will.
I think this would be a great thing, and perhaps not even just parties, but for what's the word, societies. For example, the one off the top of my head, because I know I'd be interested in it, would be an activist society, or even like an anarchist society, or for people to actually engage with ideas, not just parties, although parties are also important, especially in a election year. But yeah.
Thank you. Wadzi?
Hello. I think that's a great idea, but I actually spoke to one of the committee members from the Middle East Awareness Society, and instead of creating those new societies, a better way is to improve the ones that exist, because they're struggling with membership and struggling with people to actually get on board with that. So I don't see the point in starting that new society if we can't sustain the ones that we have already in what they do, because it's a political society. They discuss issues that are regarding the Middle East, so I think just improving the ones that we have already.
Also, at the moment, we have 85 active societies, which is the limit. So there isn't ways we can just say, right, let's have 10 or more activist, anarchist societies, because you lose the ones that are currently sustainable. As Wadzi said, we should be focusing on keeping the ones that are maybe at the lower end of the numbers, boosting them up and getting them to do a wider range of events and more collaborative events.
I think there is a significant issue with allowing any one political party to have a society on campus, because unless you give all political parties an equal voice with societies, then that is fundamentally unfair. And it's also just completely you can't do it to have every party having their own society. As it stands, we have the University of Bath Politics Society, which is absolutely fantastic. They're very sustainable. They have a lot of membership. They do some fantastic events, and there's a lot of fantastic discourse there. And having that general politics society, I think, is by far a better way, because it also allows those with different ideologies to talk rather than ring-fencing them.
Thank you. We'll move on to something slightly different, and this is for Emma. You've mentioned in your manifesto the development of the tier system. In your opinion, how has that functioned this year, and does it truly benefit all societies?
In my opinion, the tier system is in the first year. For those people that don't know, societies pick themselves into a tier, and that dictates the support that the minimum support they will get. They can always come for more from us. I believe as a trial year there are some flaws, and I'm going to use two societies as an example, Bosoms and Knitsock. They are both in the orange tier because they both need the budget, they both need the support from the office for their events. However, they are two very different societies. Bosoms need to hit targets such as getting the publicity, getting the advertising and students' union media. For Knitsock, that's not as important to them. For them, doing their community events is more important. I want to develop the tier system so that societies can pick they have to pick a certain number of targets, but they can pick the areas that they are in so that it can then develop from there.
Thank you. Anyone else care to comment on the tier system and its expansion in the future?
As it stands, the tier system, it has its advantages and disadvantages. I don't think there is going to be a single one-size-fits-all solution to this due to just the diverse nature of all the societies. I've been on a committee myself. I was on the founding committee for the Literature Society, LitSoc, and we don't need that much support from the SU. But equally, as you said, Bosoms and Knitsock, everyone has different needs. I think breaking it into tiers is just untenable as a solution, because it's trying to fit very diverse societies into very narrow borders.
And Nick, while I've got you there, you'll have a chance to discuss with each other at the end. One of your key points has been that you want more power for committees and more transparency from the activities office downstairs. Why do you think there needs to be more transparency, and why do you think committees need more power?
Shall I answer the transparency first?
You can answer in whatever order you feel like.
In regards to transparency, I've spoken to a hell of a lot of students over this past week of campaigning, and almost none of them knows what exactly goes on in the activity office. To take an example, not a lot of students, not a lot of committees know why you can't finish on a positive number at the end of the year. And
do you not think that's a training issue rather than...
Which is why I do cover training in terms of, I have said how I want to revitalise training and make it a lot more relevant. The point is that a lot of this isn't discussed, and I went to training and I don't recall that being mentioned in the training, or if it was, then there was a problem with the training of it just not working. In regards to giving more power to committees and making life easier for them, I've said why I think that's a good idea. For example, in this year, I think it was Freddie who introduced the fact that only the secretary could book a room.
I think that's an ongoing point. That wasn't introduced this year.
I only joined the committee this year.
I believe that's actually room bookings within the university
Yeah.
who ask for only 1 or 2 people per society. It's not a activities office decision.
Yes, but I would obviously try and... Thank you. I'd obviously try and convince them that every single member of society, because every single committee I've spoke to, this has been a problem, and it's a very simple thing to fix.
I've spoken to this. A lot of the art societies come to me, and I've actually gone and spoken to room bookings. Their issue is if you have a society with 8 committee members and they all email in their separate room bookings, for them that's just too much to deal with. So there are other solutions. The option of having only 1 or 2 committee members is a solution to that problem. There are other solutions, such as a log-on for each individual society, such as a BodySock login that allows anyone with that BodySock login to book a room for BodySock. But if everyone books under their individual Bucks ID, it's just too much for the room booking system, and the solution is currently...
I think we'll cut that one off there. Sorry, guys. Has anyone else got anything they'd like to add on transparency? I'll take lads first, because we're going to come back to Oddsy in a second.
With regards to transparency, I know that a couple of years ago, when Alex Chadwell and Scott were activities, they did have drop-in sessions, and they have fizzled away to nothingness because they just don't really work. Because if someone wants to go see the activities officer, they will walk into the office and go hello. They don't need to book a time. They don't need to know that they're not going to wait till Tuesday 12 o'clock to see someone. So I think so long as people know where the office is, I think the publicity of what the activities does is more important than having regular times when people can see you.
The point is that often I've wanted to speak to Freddie and he's been in a meeting or busy, so I've kept on having to go back to the activities office waiting for him. If there was just a time when you knew you could speak to him, if it wasn't that important, if it's important, you book a meeting. If it's just to have a quick chat and let him know something, then a single time every week where you know you can find him is obviously going to be a beneficial
I
thing.
think we'll hold that there. I'd like Wadsy's opinion on transparency.
I was just going to totally agree with you on the transparency issue. In late last year, the ACS held a solidarity with Ferguson Vigil, which was actually under race equality, and being able to actually act instantaneously to that was really difficult because there's so many procedures that we don't know about, so many things that you have to do. So being able to be clear about what needs to be done and be open with societies is definitely something that I want to push for.
Will, very quickly, and then I'll have a new question.
Again, I think this issue of transparency specifically with the activities officer is something that is systemic to the rest of the SU, and that one way to solve it is by the introduction of things like a students' assembly, where if you want to talk to someone, you could either talk to them there or immediately after it, and it's just something that allows for transparency across the SU.
Do you not think the exec areas act as a student assembly with an elected... Do you not think the exec areas act as a student council with elected representatives from each area?
Well, again, then you've got a level. I know that the execs are elected, but you've again got this level of top-down. You have to talk to your exec, who'll talk to the people above. There should be general student assemblies, in my opinion, where anyone can put forward motions, rock up, turn up to them, and have their voice heard.
Thank you. This will be the last question from me, and then we'll have 1 or 2 more from the floor. Wadsy, something you'd mentioned in your manifesto is the marketing of skills training.
Yeah.
How do you anticipate that can be improved in the future?
Definitely targeting freshers. I work in JobLink, and we had one stall during Freshers Week, and that's as much exposure we had to freshers. That's as much exposure we had. So definitely targeting freshers and doing something during Freshers Week, because freshers, they don't know as much as people who are coming back and people who've already been at the university. So getting our name out there and getting everyone involved in the skills development area right from the beginning.
Emma?
This is also something I see as a big issue. The same, not only just for skills training, but with JobLink Enterprise, there is this distinct lack of necessarily getting out there and seeing people. I didn't even know about these areas for my first few months at university, and there are opportunities I think I would have loved to have done. The same with, as Freddie started building up the green team and sustainability, we need to get this advertising out to freshers early on so they're aware of what they can start when they come to university and what new things they can try. And I think just improving the advertising in Freshers Week will definitely help.
I'd like to add to that. I totally agree, but I think the publicising could do with a little tweak as well, because at the moment it has skills training, leadership, teamwork, things like that, and that's really ambiguous. I think it needs to be more specific. I think that's the main things I'd like to change. I think all the options are there if you if you look for them. They're just really ambiguously publicised.
Again, yes, I think there's this issue that people don't know a lot about them, and I think that's something that needs to change, but also we need to change things like through JobLink, the fact that the university has, let me get the correct terminology right, casual student workers arrangements with students. I think we need to make it more transparent to them that these don't have the same and proper rights that normal employment contracts do, and I think that's something that needs to change.
Can I just say something? I think it's implied by the term casual that they don't have the same rights.
Are you aware that some research was done in 2013 on what sort of contract students preferred, and of the students asked, most of them preferred what you would call 0-hour or casual contract because it allowed them to have the flexibility to work. What are your comments on that?
I'm obviously, I completely understand that as students we need flexibility. We have deadlines, we have projects, reports, things that take up a huge amount of time. But at the moment, the university doesn't even have a proper contract. They are agreements. They do not give you any of the rights that unions have fought for years to do. And at the end of the day, this is a student union, and we need to start acting like it.
Surely, if students had that issue, they wouldn't have answered that survey in the way that they did.
Again, I think this is an issue to do with people not being straight with them, people not explaining things to them, explaining that if you have a cold or are unable to work, the current system would allow the university to turn around and be like, on your bike, mate.
Wadzi, as somebody who works in JobLink and deals with casual student workers, what are your thoughts on this?
I've never received any negative feedback or negative comments regarding the ambiguity of the role. I mean, it's called casual. It's a casual position because it's flexible. It works around my degree. I've been working at JobLink for over a year. They're so flexible. And
Thank you. I think we'll leave that there and move on. The final question we'll take from Twitter is from an ex-activities officer. How would you approach the fact that the union budget decisions and handover training mainly take place before you take up the role? To anyone who'd like to answer.
I believe that there are lots of, well, having been on a committee myself, I came back before Freshers Week to start getting stuff ready. I know not every committee does, and I know not everyone does, but just widening up the opportunities for these committee training sessions to happen so that people can come and do them, people that are on placement they're not here in July or June, they can't sit their training sessions then, so opening it up and giving more opportunities.
I believe the question was targeted at how you'd approach the fact that the decisions affecting your role, some of them would have already been made. If there's anything you'd like to add.
I just think it's all, at this day and age, I live on my phone. Communication all happens through your phone. So contact people, talk. Having worked with previous activities officer, I know they'll talk to you and make those decisions and speak to you about it all.
Fantastic. Nick?
I think it comes down to, even if I don't get to make the decisions that will entirely affect my term, I still will get to leave a legacy. I will still get to make decisions for the next activity officer. Because when it comes down to it, I'm not trying to fix the university for just the time I'm in office. I'm trying to lay the groundwork. I'm trying to build the SU to be better in the long term. So even if I have to live with Freddie's decisions for the next year, I still feel I can make the difference I want to make.
Hopefully Mr. Clapton won't be offended by that comment.
I love you, Freddie.
I would, if elected, I would try and have some sort of say in what goes on, or at least shadow what happens so I know what's going on. But obviously it's not, if I get elected, it's not my job this year to take over the committee training for this year. It'll be my job next year, so there's not really much you can do about it.
Wadzi?
I agree with what you said. It's the decisions that the current committee make that affect the future committee. I want to push for interactive sessions, so all the important decision making can be made before the end of summer, but have interactive sessions that you can play back over summer, and you have unlimited access to those, and just refresh your memory on those policies.
Fantastic. We will now invite the candidates to ask each other questions. If you could all be reminded that not to keep it too personal and try and make it about policies. Not personal at all, I've just had whispered in my ear. And should anything interesting arise, we'll follow up on it. Wadzi?
Can I just ask Will how campaigning towards the living wage, which is something that I completely agree with, how that fits into your position as activities officer?
Well, I think we just covered it, that our
More
remit...
detail.
As in,
Yeah.
well, as in how I'd go about it, or
Yeah, how you incorporate that into the role.
well, for first of all, I think it would involve talking to the JobLink people and whoever else is involved with it, because you never know. This is something that maybe they're just not aware of at the moment. I know when we were lobbying University Council, a lot of the council members didn't even know that we weren't. And then go from there and sort of see what their response is like. And if they're positive, then hopefully work with them to achieve it. If they are resistive to this change, then start to see if any societies would want to get involved. I know that People and Planet members now want to take up the living wage campaign. I'd see if maybe the Politics Society wants to get involved with it. And then it's a case of continuing on with things that people like Bath Students Against Fees and Cuts have been working on at the moment, of lobbying, pestering, VC days, getting more students involved.
Just
et
adding to
cetera.
this, just another question to throw in. Do you feel, as the activities officer, it's your job to bring the campaign forward, or it's your job to represent what all students want?
I think if I'm elected, I've clearly said that it's important to me and that I would have a mandate to start to push that forward. And obviously I will only potentially be there for a year, so I would want to make sure that students get involved in that campaign and they start to push it forward themselves. But I certainly think I would be taking a leading role.
Thank you. We'll leave that for now. Any other questions?
May I ask another question to Will?
If you could ask one to someone else, that'd be fantastic.
I have
Just in the interest of fairness.
I have a question for Nick. Having read your manifesto, a lot of your policies are stuff that the current SOX executive and the current activities officer have started putting in progress for next year, and some of them seem, you said you want to introduce a more weekly bulletin and a blog. Surely if Freddie had time for that, he would have done it more regularly. So my question is, what do you think you'll be doing differently that the current executive and activities officer haven't done?
Well, for a start, you say if Freddie had time to update a weekly blog, he would. Honestly, that takes maybe 15, half an hour just to even bullet point what you've done that week. What I'm saying is I find it's a priority to do this. If Freddie doesn't find time, that's not because he can't, it's because he hasn't got the motivation to do it. I do.
I think if we could avoid personal attacks on anyone, please, and move on. I've also just been pointed out there is already a blog for all SU officers.
It's been updated 5 times since 2012.
Okay, can we move on from there, please?
I have a
Laz.
question for, I think Nick and Emma both raised a similar point. You both wanted to do a calendar for all societies. I'm just, is that to avoid clashes? Yeah.
As far as I'm aware, and there's currently plans in progress to actually create one for use of the Edge to ensure that the theatre isn't overbooked and there aren't clashing theatre events, because that has an impact on the staff in the Edge and backstage. I want to make sure that there aren't. I want to go to this event, but I have that show that evening and that show the day before and then this all-day event the day after, and I'm a student, I don't have money, and B, I don't have the time, I have a degree to study, so I want to do it to make sure that everyone gets the same opportunities and a wider variety of activities.
But all societies have put on over 500 events this year. There's no way they're not going to clash in some way, and I don't think that Bust and Bosoms, I know, because they're so close, they make an effort not to clash, but other societies, I suppose you're just going to have to deal with the clashes.
You can't avoid clashes, that is true, but there are clashes between major events, like, the biggest event for that society for that year happens 2 days before another society's biggest event. And I know we can't make it so everyone has their own individual weekend, but we can ensure that there aren't situations where we have a cultural then going straight into a show, going straight into another cultural, because then we have issues.
I'm just questioning the feasibility of actually putting the thing together, because what you do start at the beginning of the year, everyone puts a bid in for certain days.
I believe they're currently working on one for the Edge with regards to this, and I just believe
that makes sense, because backstage will take a hold of it because there's only one room to
But backstage do more events than just in the Edge.
I think we'd like to give Nick the opportunity to answer this one as well.
Emma has made some fantastic points, but I think what it comes down to is you can't avoid these things, but ultimately if all the societies are aware of what each other is doing, then that's only going to improve coordination. And I want to go further. I want to include sport in this. I want to collaborate with the next sports officer to make sure societies and sport can work together, because sport is such a massive part of why a lot of people go to this university.
Continuing on this line, we'll take one more question from Twitter, and then you'll all have the opportunity for a closing statement, which will be a minute again. Why do you think SOCs and activities are seen as less important than sport, and how do you plan to change that? We'll go with Nick straight away, please.
Well, I answered this question for Bath Impact already, but I'll summarise why I think it's not being overshadowed. I think they complement each other. There's a lot of crossover sometimes between societies and between sports, say cheerleading and body solk. I think that societies aren't publicised as well as sports because we aren't a society, we're not an arts-based university, we're not a societies-based university. But I don't see any reason why one aspect of this university is overshadowing each other. I just don't understand why someone could think that.
Thank you.
I don't think that sports overshadow societies because the people that want to be involved in societies go and get themselves involved in societies. Everyone has their different priorities. I never wanted to join a sport because I'm not a sporty person. I came to uni and went straight to find body sock because that's what I wanted to do. People will do that and people will make the effort to find the societies. What needs to happen is just making sure that the division of resources is made fair so that societies can get the support and we don't overwork the poor admin staff that have to deal with the 85 societies.
Thank you. Wadzi?
I agree. I don't think it's in terms of overshadowing. I think it goes back to something that Freddie raised last year in his manifesto about visual identity and how sports have their own identities. You see blue and yellow, you automatically associate that with the sports team, whereas as societies, we don't have our own identity. We don't have something that sort of is in your face. Like you see that person wearing that, and you know that they're part of this of a society. So, visual
Thank
identity.
you. We'll go Will and then Laz.
Hello. Yeah. For me, I remember on my open day being shown around the sports village. That's the right term, isn't it?
Sports training village.
That's one. I remember being showed around, and I obviously didn't take much notice, being an out-of-shape physicist. But I don't remember ever once on any of my open days or anything being told about or shown anything to do with activities. So I think that's something that the university itself needs to really pull its socks up on.
Thank you.
I think it will be a lot better now that we do have the edge. So we do have a new building for societies to go into. Like obviously you said you were showing around the STV. Now we have a whole new societies building that we can walk around as well. I also believe we're not overshadowed by sports. I mean, sports is such a big area. We do so well. We even have degrees in sports. So it makes sense that they're well publicised. But I would like to publicise what we do.
And we'll take this as the last point.
Can I just ask Laz a question on what she's just said, or?
Yes, you can.
I know you said that we've got the edge now, but I feel that's more arts aligned. And how do you plan on incorporating other societies, other departments, ethical and political, faith and cultural, recreational? How do they fit into the edge?
Well, it's a space for anyone to use. So it is owned by arts, admittedly, but it's got the arts lecture theatre. There are lectures in there. It's quarter owned by management as well, I believe. So. Like anyone could put events on there. The CSS did the first ever society event in there, so it is open for everyone to use if you want to, and it's free to use. That's.
Does anyone else have anything else to add to this? Anyone else? Any other questions? I think we've pretty much asked all the ones that have come in, so we'll give each candidate a chance for a closing statement. We'll keep these to a minute again, and I'll let you know when you get to 50 seconds from Laz.
Okay. So I'm going to be mainly pushing towards the development of your degree. So I want you to have more skills training, more awareness of what JobLink and societies are all about. I want more training to count towards the Bath Award. I want to double the winners of the Bath Award. I want everyone to be more employable and have a more enjoyable time. You know, it has to be less.
Thank you. Will?
I'm not going to try and quickly condense everything down into a minute. I would thoroughly recommend you all go off now after hearing us and read all our manifestos. I'm guessing a lot of you already have. All I would say is that if you want someone who will stand up for your issues, who will fight the university and management if they're not willing to be cooperative with us, if you want real change, then yeah, vote me.
Thank you. Emma?
I've said why in my opening statement why I thought I'd be good for the job. If you go to Bath Student, you can read my manifesto, look at my Facebook page, I explain all my points in more detail. I want to represent what the students want. I want to make changes that the students want to see in the activities area, in employability areas, and in societies. And I want to make myself available to do what they need me to do for their roles and what they need. So it's no dilemma, vote Emma.
Thank you.
I'm going to have to say the same. All my points are on Bar Student. I'm not going to try fit everything into 50 seconds, but I just want to bring in a fresh perspective that the SU has never seen before and bring in a new way of thinking that I don't think has been brought to the role before. So if you want something done, Wadsy's the one.
Thank you.
I'm not going to explain my policies. You've heard all of them a lot. But I just want to say that I am so passionate about activities. I care so much about them. I have so many fantastic ideas that I want to make real. And I honestly feel that I am the best candidate for this role. And I want you, you've tried the rest, now try Nick West. Hashtag Go West.
Thank you. And that concludes our questions to candidates for Activities Officer. Tonight at 6 o'clock in this exact location will be the presidential questions, so please come along to that. And thank you very much for listening.